Most men believe attraction is about what they say. They think it's their pickup lines, their career achievements, or how many interesting stories they can tell. But here's the truth that will shatter everything you think you know about human connection. Women have already made their decision about you before you even open your mouth. Science tells us that within the first 3 seconds of meeting someone, we form impressions that rarely change. 3 seconds, that's faster than it takes you to tie your shoe. And in those crucial moments, she's not listening to your words. She's reading something much deeper, something primal, something that cuts straight through to who you really are beneath all the masks and performances. Today, I'm going to reveal the 6 things every woman notices about you instantly. Not the surface-level nonsense you've been told, but the unconscious signals that determine whether she sees you as a man of substance or just another guy desperately seeking her approval. The first signal: your relationship with space. Watch a truly confident man enter a room. He doesn't rush. He doesn't apologize for taking up space. He moves like he belongs there, because in his mind, he does. Women notice this immediately, not because they're judging your physical presence, but because how you occupy space reveals how you occupy your own life. A man who hunches his shoulders, who makes himself smaller, who hurries through doorways as if he's apologizing for existing. This man has already told her everything she needs to know about his relationship with himself. The ancient Stoics understood this principle deeply. They called it dignitas, the quiet dignity that comes from knowing your own worth. It's not arrogance. Arrogance compensates for insecurity. Dignitas simply exists. When you walk into a space, you're broadcasting a message. Are you a man who believes he deserves to be there, or are you constantly seeking permission from the world around you? She reads this signal before you've taken 3 steps. Your posture isn't just about your spine. It's about your relationship with gravity itself. Do you carry yourself like someone who's been defeated by life, or like someone who's learned to dance with its challenges? This is the first test, and most men fail it without ever knowing they're being evaluated. The second signal: the quality of your attention. Here's where most men reveal their desperation without saying a word. They enter her presence, and immediately their attention scatters. Their eyes dart around the room, checking phones, looking at other women, anywhere but present in the moment. A woman notices where your attention goes because attention is the currency of respect. When your focus is scattered, you're telling her that nothing, including her, is worthy of your full presence. And if you can't give your attention to what's right in front of you, how can she trust you with anything deeper? The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote about the power of focused attention. He understood that in a world full of distractions, the man who can control his focus controls his destiny. Women sense this quality immediately. When you're truly present, something shifts in the energy around you. Your breathing deepens. Your movements become more deliberate. You stop performing and start being. This isn't a technique you can fake. Presence is earned through practice, through learning to find stillness in chaos. But there's a deeper layer here. The quality of your attention reveals the quality of your inner world. A man whose mind is constantly racing, constantly seeking stimulation, is a man at war with himself. She senses this internal chaos, even if you're saying all the right words. The third signal: your relationship with discomfort. Life is uncomfortable. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. But here's what separates boys from men. Boys run from discomfort. Men learn to sit with it, to breathe through it, to find their center, even when the ground is shaking beneath their feet. Women have an almost supernatural ability to sense how you handle pressure. It's not about what you do when everything is going your way. It's about who you become when things get difficult. Watch how a man reacts to a small inconvenience: a delayed flight, a rude waiter, an unexpected change of plans. In those moments, his character is revealed. Does he become reactive, blaming the world for his discomfort? Or does he remain centered, adapting without losing his inner equilibrium? This is deeply attractive to women, not because they want a man who never feels stress, but because they want a man who won't crumble when life inevitably brings its storms. They're looking for someone who can be their rock, not another person they need to manage. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization, imagining loss. Imagining difficulty not to attract it, but to build resilience for when it arrives. Men who practice this kind of mental training carry themselves differently. They have what the ancient Greeks called unshakable calm. She notices this immediately. In your shoulders that don't tense at the first sign of conflict, in your voice that remains steady when others are losing their composure, in your ability to find humor and perspective even in challenging moments. The fourth signal, your economic relationship with validation. This is where most men destroy themselves without realizing it. They enter every interaction as if they're applying for a job, desperately trying to prove they're worthy of approval. They over-explain, overshare, overcompensate. They treat validation like oxygen, something they'll die without. But here's the paradox that will change everything. The moment you stop seeking her approval is the moment you become worthy of her attention. Women notice immediately whether you're coming from a place of abundance or scarcity. Are you offering value or seeking it? Are you sharing your authentic self or performing a character you think she wants to see? A man who needs validation is like a vampire feeding on energy. He takes and takes, leaving others drained. But a man who's already full, who's done the work on himself, becomes a source. He gives energy instead of demanding it. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you stop outsourcing your self-worth to other people's opinions. You stop changing yourself to fit what you think others want. You become genuinely curious about her, not because you need something from her, but because you're secure enough in yourself to be interested in others. The ancient Stoics called this autarky, self-sufficiency, not in the sense of isolation, but in the sense of emotional independence. When you stop needing others to complete you, you become complete enough to truly connect with them. The fifth signal, your relationship with your own masculinity in our modern world. Masculinity has become a controversial topic. Many men have either rejected it entirely or overcompensated with toxic behavior. But there's a third path, a path of conscious masculinity. Women notice immediately whether you're comfortable in your own skin as a man. Not performing masculinity, not apologizing for it, but embodying it with consciousness and responsibility. This shows up in 1,000 subtle ways. In how you open doors, not because you think women are weak, but because you choose to serve. In how you handle conflict, not with aggression, but with firm boundaries. In how you express emotions, not by suppressing them, but by feeling them fully without being controlled by them. The warrior philosopher ideal that runs through Stoic thought understood this balance. A true warrior doesn't start fights, he ends them. He doesn't dominate others, he masters himself. He doesn't suppress his heart, he leads with it, guided by wisdom. Women are drawn to this conscious masculinity because it represents safety and strength combined. You're strong enough to protect what matters, wise enough to know when protection is needed, and secure enough in your strength that you don't need to prove it constantly. This isn't about traditional gender roles, it's about owning your nature while elevating it through consciousness and choice. The sixth signal, your relationship with time. Time is the ultimate currency, and how you spend it reveals everything about your priorities and self-respect. Women notice immediately whether you treat time as sacred or as something to kill. A man who's always rushing, always checking his watch, always thinking about where he needs to be next, is communicating that he's not in control of his life. He's being lived by his schedule instead of living intentionally. But equally unattractive is the man who has too much time, who seems to have nothing better to do than hang around hoping for attention. This communicates lack of purpose, lack of mission, lack of the internal drive that makes a man magnetic. The sweet spot is presence without desperation. You're here now, fully engaged, but you're here by choice, not by default. You have a life worth living, goals worth pursuing, a mission that gives your days meaning. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote extensively about time management, calling it the most important skill a person can develop. He understood that time is the only thing we truly own, and how we use it determines not just our success, but our character. When you respect your own time, others respect it too. When you're present by choice rather than by neediness, your presence becomes a gift rather than a burden. Here's what most men miss. These aren't separate qualities you can fake or perform. They're expressions of a deeper, truthier relationship with yourself. Every woman who's ever lived has developed sophisticated radar for detecting whether a man is authentic or performing, whether he's done the work on himself or is still running from it, whether he's a source of energy or a drain on it. You can't fake presence. You can't perform confidence. You can't pretend to be comfortable with discomfort. These qualities emerge from years of practice, from facing yourself honestly, from doing the internal work that most men avoid. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that character isn't something you put on like clothing. It's something you build through daily practice, through choosing growth over comfort, through facing reality without flinching. When you've done this work, these 6 signals become effortless. You don't have to remember to stand with good posture. You simply inhabit your body with respect. You don't have to practice being present. Presence becomes your natural state. You don't have to work at being comfortable with discomfortive. Learn to find your center in any storm. But here's the truth that goes beyond attraction, beyond dating, beyond any external validation. These signals aren't really about women at all. They're about becoming the kind of man you respect when you look in the mirror. Women notice these things because they're indicators of a life well lived. They're signs of a man who's taken responsibility for his own development, who's faced his fears, who's learned to find strength in vulnerability and wisdom in difficulty. When you develop these qualities, something interesting happens. You stop needing to be noticed. You stop performing for approval. You start living from a deeper place, guided by your own values rather than by external validation. And paradoxically, this is when you become most attractive, not just to women, but to everyone, because authenticity is magnetic. Purpose is attractive. Inner strength draws others like a flame draws moths. The path to developing these qualities isn't quick or easy. It requires the kind of commitment that our instant gratification culture teaches us to avoid. It requires sitting with discomfort, facing uncomfortable truths about yourself, and choosing growth even when it's painful. Start with your relationship with yourself. Spend time alone without distractions. Learn to be comfortable in your own company. Practice sitting with difficult emotions without immediately seeking escape. Develop your attention through meditation, through deep work, through the practice of single tasking in a multitasking world. Learn to be where you are when you are there. Build your tolerance for discomfort through physical challenges, through cold showers, through doing things that scare you but don't harm you. Develop the kind of resilience that can only be earned, never given. Most importantly, develop a mission that's bigger than your own comfort. Find something worth suffering for, something that pulls you forward even when you don't feel like moving. This is what creates the magnetic quality that draws others to you. The ultimate signal in the end, there's really only one signal that matters: authenticity. Everything else flows from this. When you're genuinely comfortable with who you are, your strengths and your weaknesses, your light and your shadow, stop sending desperate signals and start emanating quiet confidence. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. It's about showing up as yourself consistently, regardless of who's watching. It's about building such a solid relationship with yourself that you don't need others to complete you. Invite them to join you. The ancient Stoics had a phrase, memento mori, remember death. Not to become morbid, but to remember that time is limited, that life is precious, that every moment you spend seeking approval from others is a moment you're not spending building the life you actually want to live. Women notice these 6 things within seconds because they're looking for someone who's done the work. Someone who's built a life worth sharing, someone who adds value to the world rather than just taking from it. But here's the final truth. When you develop these qualities for their own sake, when you become this kind of man because it's who you want to be, rather than because of how others will respond, that's when everything changes. You stop trying to be attractive and start being attracted to your own life. You stop seeking completion from others and start offering completion to the world. You stop being a signal and start being the source. This is the path of conscious masculinity. This is how you become a man worth following, worth respecting, worth loving, starting with yourself. If this changed how you see yourself and your relationships, comment, "I control my focus." Let me know which of these 6 signals resonates most with where you are in your journey right now.